guys, I know. I love this patch. I love this patch. And honestly, with the statistics and all the numbers they released on how much, what the play rates were, what the win rates were, yeah, exactly. Mind blown. Not very many broken decks, although I will say there's one deck in particular that could have told you that the win rate was through the roof. Freaking A. But all the nerfs, all the buffs on point. They changed so many champions, and Vlad finally got an update. Well, actually, I shouldn't say finally. It's like the fourth one, which honestly I still am not sure this will actually do it, but I don't know. Anyways, my name is Justin, also known as Shit Just Works. Today we got patch 1.14 coming in hot, and they did it, boys and girls. Something that myself and other casters are going to be so damn pleased about is finally here. Let's get it. Let's go ahead and without further ado get into patch 1.14. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at the infamous patch 1.14, which I know a lot of people were excited to get into because this was supposed to be the bigger patch. It is definitely the bigger patch. Lots of, champions that don't get played, getting buffed, yada, yada, yada. Awesome stuff like Ezreal. Yeah, I know you're all waiting for that one. So it's definitely an amazing patch. I'm going to say one thing, and I'm going to preface this video with this one thing. The one thing I'm disappointed in is I was expecting actually more cards to get changed than this. I don't know if that's just spoiled. I mean, whatever. I'm not necessarily complaining because I am still super happy with all these changes. But my biggest thing was some of the underutilized followers and spells. They did change some of those, but not nearly, I think, enough. Maybe because I still haven't really gotten enough data on some of the other ones I was thinking about. So that's really my only disappointment. Otherwise, this shit's on point, everybody. Let's get into it. Alright, so first off, they give this metagame snapshot. So and also there's a new experimental lab, which we'll get into in a second because I know it's experimental and they use it to kind of make the game better and experiment with things, see if they can put it into the competitive game and see if it'll help or hurt. Just don't go the Hearthstone route. Just don't go all Hearthstone on us, please. All right. So at the top there, I don't know if you guys see it. It's right there at the top. The debut of Friend Spectate. Yes, that's right. You heard it correctly. My life gonna be a bajillion times easier when we cast. I'm gonna have to figure out all that stuff. Listen, if you're watching this video and you enter tournaments, expect a friend request from me is all I'm saying, because we're gonna my friends list is gonna grow immensely now because I'm gonna need to add y'all so I can spectate your games when we cast your stuff. But anyways, all right, one of the biggest things that I'm excited for in this patch, which I think is freaking amazing. Speaking of Hearthstone, something that Hearthstone and other card games, actually I can't really speak to all the other card games, but most other card games don't have their own internal staff providing percentages and play rates and win rates and top cards played and yada, yada, yada. That's usually left up to the community, and Riot is now getting involved with that, which is freaking amazing. It shows that they actually have their thumb on the pulse of the meta of the game, so cool stuff as far as that's concerned. One of the things they mentioned I'm actually pretty excited about, the general bar. So their consideration of a meta deck is around 3% play rate. Now, 3% may seem low, but you got to take into consideration this is amongst all the decks on ladder, and they said Platinum, Diamond, and Master, right? So you got to take that into consideration. So 3% is a lot. I mean, theoretically, that's 33 different decks if everything was played at 3%. Obviously, there's going to be some things played higher. So when everything's said and done, 3% is a decent share of the actual deck population. So with that said, or 50% plus win rate. So if there is a deck that is winning more than half the time, which is generally that line, right? That's where the perfect card game, quote unquote, kind of lies, when everything is between that kind of 45 to 55% range of win rate. Shows that everything's pretty balanced. So anyways, and this is amongst all regional shards as well. Now, At a high level, they also mentioned that a 55% win rate and a 15% play rate going above those thresholds is usually a red flag, and I'd have to agree. I agree 100%. Now, with that said, we're going to go through this list. You'll see what is above 55%, and I'm going to make a statement at the end of this here that I think is interesting. And this, just shut up all the naysayers. People with card game fans are the hardest to deal with because everybody's so quick to be like, this is broken, this is busted, this deck it's OP, nerf it, ban it. Just no. This game, I love this game. All right. Anyways, they actually gave 2 meta snapshots. So, first one, pre Lee Sin and make it rain changes. Second one, post Lee Sin, make it rain changes. So, this first one, you can see here, one thing I want to point out, and this is what I mean, everybody cries wolf. The first one on here, Ionia, Targon, and you know they put this up top for a reason. Now, it did actually have the highest, it looks like this is, sorry, I was going to say for a reason, but it's organized by play rate, so never mind. Throw that one out the window. But I think that from kind of how I was reading Ruben's posts, seems like somebody rubbed them the wrong way as to complaining about Lee Sin, or not somebody, but maybe just the community in general, where everybody was crying wolf that Lee Sin was busted, and from his implications in his posts that it really actually wasn't busted. It was just in a perfect spot. Everybody just happened to play it a lot. So we have Zed Lee Sin. Play rate, yes, obviously we all knew it was the top played deck, but 11% of the time, 11%, right? That is not above the 15% that they usually put as the red flag, which again, I do agree with that. And the win rate was only 53%. There are decks on here that have higher win rates. Not only that, there's some that are on here that have over the 55 that we just mentioned. So, yes, was it a good deck? Sure. All right, it's still decent. Lee Sin's still pretty good. But it wasn't busted. It was never busted. It was just super popular because everybody wanted to play a card that was newly buffed. I could go on about this forever. All right, anyways, we have Warmother's Call, obviously up there as well. Misfortune Gangplank, aggro up there as well. So this is good because it's kind of sort of like, it's a combo. We have control or ramp, whatever you want to call it. Then you have aggro. All 3 of those types are represented with a deck that is played over 10% of the time and has a win rate over 53% of the time. Then we have another aggro deck. Then we have another, I don't really know, Soraka Tom Kench. Was that like combo, mid-range type? I don't really know. I guess control. I don't know. That one's kind of a weird deck. But Soraka Tom Kench, and this is what I've said from the beginning about this deck, I think is terrible. I don't know why people like it. 50.85% win rate. Barely over 50%, right? Deep sucks, unfortunately. I actually thought it was getting a little bit better, but fortunately still pretty bad. Twisted Fate Swain. That deck, as long as it has been popular alongside Midrange Frostbite, which is on here as well, actually not played that much anymore, which we kind of have been seeing as of late, especially in tournaments. And even then, it's not the highest of the win rates on here, right? Now, we get to the 2 problem decks, or what they would define as problem. I'm very surprised to see Nightfall aggro on here, because I do think it's okay. I just think it's the worst of the aggro decks. Now, it might be because it's a lower play rate at 3.77, and then you have something like the discard aggro at almost 10%. So just, more games, the more you play, the more likely you are to get closer to that 50%, right? It's like the law of numbers. So the law of large numbers, whatever the hell that law is called, right? So we have, this is only played 3.77% of the time, but it's over 55% win rate. Now, here's the real problem. I'm actually very surprised that Scouts has not played more. It's only a 4.41% win rate, because I started using it to climb, and it's hella easy. This deck's busted. It's stupid. It's this of all the decks right now, this I think is the only really kind of overtuned, busted deck. However, it is in a mid-range region, right? It's mainly Demacia, and for that reason, it's kind of like, that's kind of like the line of the game, right? That's where everything kind of converges, mid-range. If you have a balanced mid-range, then everything else should work out. Generally speaking, Demacia feels pretty balanced and pretty straightforward. It's just this Scouts package that seems a little bit overtuned. So I'm curious. I mean, it didn't look like, as we'll see in a second, they made too many changes to this strategy, or to Scouts or Demacia for that matter. So I'm a little scared. We'll see how that goes, but everything else is kind of just lesser played strategies. And then we have randomly Zed Lucian, apparently not played much, but 55% win rate. I think that's just because there's not a lot of games on there, which is why we're seeing that. So I don't think this is really a concern whatsoever. So especially because they made a change to Lucian. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. All right, so here's the next one. So we have discard aggro actually on top now, 52% win rate. We still have Warmother's Call on top. Obviously, Zed Lucian is still up there now with a lower win rate, which is pretty good to see. So the nerf, kind of like more like a rework, but nerf, actually did lower the win rate a little bit. So there's that. Field of Rush, I'm sure we could have all guessed that it was at a 55% win rate, and they did actually make a change, and I think this will be right in line with where it needs to be. And what else? Yeah. Oh, hey, look at that. Scouts, again, still over 55%. Actually, the play rate has gone up as well, so that's scary. I think Scouts needs to have, or Demacia needs to have something done to it. I don't know if maybe the next release of cards will fix that. Who knows? This is surprising. This is the most surprising thing on this whole list. Demacia, Ionia, Fiora, Shen. Barrier. 56. This is the highest win rate of all the decks we've looked through. I can't actually believe this is that high. I mean, sure, it's a good deck, but that's so weird. And it surprises me that it's higher than Scouts, too. And honestly, even at a 3.81% play rate, it's not so underplayed where I'd be like, yeah, it's just because not a lot of people play it. It's fairly decently played, and it's got a high win rate, so that's kind of crazy. Looks like Nightfall aggro went down a little bit. So, or actually, wait, why does that say Mount Targon? That says Mount Targon. They actually put Mount Targon instead of Targon. Anyways, so yeah, I'm not really worried about everything else on here. It is interesting to see though that we have some high win rates with these aggro, either fearsome or we even see Targon Noxus on here. I think that these are starting to become more prevalent, and you're going to see these start to climb their way up the list. So, all right, the card changes. Sorry, that was kind of a long intro. So thanks for sticking it out. You definitely stayed in the right place for a really good reason, though, because these are fire. All right, Lucian. This is more of a quality of life change, but it's a buff. And they even say it's more of like a, not necessarily a qualified as a buff, but just to make things kind of all on the same page. So each round, the first time an ally dies, rally. So now he can actually trigger his level up and trigger the effect in the same round, is essentially what they did. Can now trigger the same round as leveling up. But that does not mean that when the fourth unit dies, he levels and rallies. You need a fourth unit to die to level, at least from my understanding and what I've talked to a couple people about so far. And the fifth unit dying in the same turn would then rally. So if you attack with 3 units, Lucian on the right, first one dies, levels Lucian, second one dies, Lucian rallies. And then even then Lucian can die. So I would imagine in that specific instance, you would still rally even though Lucian dies in that combat, which is nice. It definitely improves his strength a little bit. And he's not the most played champion. So that's good to see. Siobhan, we knew this was coming. This is probably the really only disappointing one. I might take that back in a second, but hold on. Yeah, I might take that back, but this is one of the more disappointing changes, I think. I don't really think this does anything. What I will say is I feel like they're only buffing her power by 1 and not really giving too much of a... Because I think they know she's not played. This is like, this champion does not exist in this game right now. And for them to give such a small description and only boost her power by 1, this tells me there will be more dragon support coming out in this next bulk of releases in a month. So I'm going to go ahead and wait until we actually, when we see those cards to actually make a consideration of whether or not this was a good buff. So, Vladimir. All right. I don't want to say I'm disappointed in this, because I'm not. It's all right. It's all right. The change is all right. But... every time they change Vladimir, I was kind of also hoping for some Crimson unit reworks, but this, all right, so now you can choose who he drains from when he attacks. So it's only going to be allies to his right. But that is also a slight drawback because now he cannot attack all the way to the right and attack last, right? And have his effect go off. Technically, the effect going off first would still level him if that's what you're worried about. So it's not like combat would level him. But, I don't know. I just think that, I don't know. It's a little tiny bit of a drawback. I can't think of something in my head right now that would actually be worse if he was attacking, if he had to attack on the left as opposed to the right. But also, he is easier to level up. So now instead of 6 allies surviving damage, it's 5. So that means he's more, and I'm not going to lie, he's actually not that easy to level up. He's more likely to come down on turn 5 leveled up now, which is pretty nice, which means he'll be a turn 5, 6, 6, which is really, really nice. But I don't know. I'm not convinced this is enough to push him over the edge. Maybe they know something we don't. But it is a buff. I am excited for it because it's Vladimir. We'll see what happens. Trundle. We all knew this. 6-5. Pretty sure everybody kind of figured it was going to go down to a 5 health. So I like this for sure. The fact that he could trade with 5 cost units that all have 5 attack and not die was pretty nuts. So this is perfect. And they also adjusted Ice Pillar down to 6 health. I also like this. I'm worried. I mean, I guess ramp and Warmothers and all that wouldn't really be a thing without Trundle. So I don't really know if I want them to nerf him so much where, like, he's just bad. I do actually like Trundle. I want him to be good. So I know some people were thinking down to 5 health for Pillar or some other, nerfs in addition to this. Because this doesn't seem like as much of a nerf as I think most people were expecting. But I like it. I think this is perfect. I think at that 55% win rate, it's going to bump it down just slightly, ever so slightly to like 53%. So that's good. All right. The spice. Here comes the spice. All right, everybody. What? All right. Listen. Shit's about to get real. That's all I'm gonna say. This is super interesting to me. One of the best ideas I think that I've seen ever floating around, this was before Ezreal even got nerfed, was changing it so that his effect only did 1 damage, but then maybe making it so he only cost 2 or something like that, or whatever. I very much agree with that, and that's kind of the route they went, sorta. So now, if you play something that targets a unit or targets an enemy, then you deal 2 damage to the Nexus. If you play something else, like let's say a Rummage or a Jury Rig that just doesn't do anything to the enemy, then it only does an additional 1 damage. So that kind of reduces the impact of that, like, hey, I got 5 burst spells in my hand, bam, I win the game. I love that. I love that idea. So that's actually cool. They separated it for 1 and 2 and still kept his overall champion design. I don't think you needed to bring it down to 6. I don't think you needed to bring it down to make his level up easier. Like, I think they could have just reverted it to 8 and then done this and tried with that. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter if he levels up earlier rather than later now. I mean, there are a lot of ways to deal with Ezreal now that there weren't in the past, i.e. Hush. Yeah. So, I'm excited for this. I really do love this change, but god damn am I scared of 6 target level up Ezreal. That's, whoo. All right, Jinxy Poo. Don't know if she needed a buff, but yeah, I question this one. I agree with it because it is in line with Lucian and other effects, but this also scares me. This just scares me. So basically, just like Lucian, she doesn't get the rocket the second, like if you have an empty hand, she's the last card in your hand and you play her and she levels up, you don't get a rocket right away. When you do get a rocket on the same turn is if you play her, let's say you Rummage, you have 3 cards in your hand, one's Rummage. You play Rummage, discard 2. Before you draw, you get her to level up. Okay, then you draw 2. Then if you're able to play those 2 cards in the same turn that she leveled up and empty your hand again, then you get a rocket. That's the only difference, whereas before you didn't get it. So I do agree with that. But, man, I don't know if she needed that because this deck is already pretty good. Granted, there are plenty of ways to deal with aggro, to be honest with you, and I think the meta will just shift. So at the end of the day, I don't think this will actually impact much, other than just making sure aggro stays relevant, or discard aggro more specifically, because she has one deck. She has one deck. That's it. So Tarek up to 3 power, very minor explanation as well. These minor explanations with very minor buffs lead me to believe that there are going to be more support cards for both Siobhan and Tarek come the next set release in about a month or so. So again, I agree with this. Think it's great. I'm not really going to say much until we actually get the new cards in a month. Tiana Crown Guard! Sure, why not? Makes sense. It makes sense. I don't think this really matters too much. I think it just makes it so she's more online with everything else in the game. She now can trade with some other larger units a little bit better. I'm trying to think of what in particular has like 8 health or something like that. So, well, this would have mattered if Riptide wasn't getting changed, but we're gonna get to that in a second. So, yeah, this is fine. I mean, she wasn't really hugely played anyway, so if anything, this just buffs her slightly. Wording Stones, knew this was happening. This has gone back and forth and back and forth. I think this is like the 4th time. I think it started at 3, went to 4, went back to 3, went back to... Maybe it's the 5th time. This might actually be the 5th. It's either the 4th or 5th. I think it started at 4 health. It went 4, 3, 4. Now we're back to 3. This is the fourth iteration of this card doing the same thing. Yeah, sure. I mean, with the Trundle nerf, I don't know if they needed this, but yeah, sure. This will probably... I think this is another example of a card that costs 3.5, and they don't really know how to price it properly. I don't know what you would do to really... Maybe give it 1 attack. Because at the end of the day, you're not really using this for an attack, right? I don't know. It seems awkward, though. I don't know. Fuzzy Caretaker. Another one I agree with. This is great. This is useless because you can't really get it down early. So if you did try playing it with something like a Lulu, it's just way too late game of a card. It's not really going to work out. And they even mentioned they wanted the low to the ground support style decks to get a little bit more support, and having this priced at 3 makes a little bit more sense. It's also a little bit more powerful because before it was a 4-mana 3/3, now it's a 3-mana 3/2. It doesn't seem like it's losing as many stats to get those buffs. Although then it kind of puts the whole War Chefs thing out of whack. I know some people wanted War Chefs to go back up to 2, so I don't know. That's yet to be determined. We'll see if this gets busted, but I'm not too worried about it. Mina Swiftfoot, increase in power and health and quick attack. Sure. Anything that supports potentially a Yasuo deck archetype, sign me up, baby. This is, again, not too impactful, I don't think, but it does just make her overall, her playability a little bit better. Funsmith, yes, hell yes. Am I concerned now that Ezreal only takes 6 targets to level up? Hell yes. But thank you. This is, I wanted to make so many combo decks with her of like how to deal a bunch of damage in one turn with maybe not even using Ezreal, and like or Dawn and Dusk and stuff like that on a Funsmith, and then you play like one card, it deals like 1 million damage. It never felt possible because she costs so much. This I love because, again, less of a stat reduction for the cost reduction, so I think this is pretty big. And now she feels just more playable overall in a lot of different decks. And this shows that they realize, obviously, and understand that PNZ needs some help. Obviously, with Ezreal, I mean, I don't think they needed that much help, but with Ezreal being unnerfed or whatever you want to call it, buffed, I think PNZ will see a ton more play now. So, Black Spear. All right. I am at odds with this change. I don't necessarily disagree with it. Or no, I do disagree with it. I do disagree with this change, right? Because this, like, yes, will this card be a little bit better? And do I think that having an ally die plus playing 3 mana makes sense to deal 4 damage? Sure. The problem is when you start comparing this to something like Get Excited and whatnot, you kind of start to stray away from that whole 3 mana deal 3 damage category. Or in this case, what it really is, what I should say is pay 3 mana, pay some sort of extra cost, deal 3 damage. So now we're saying that an ally dying is technically more difficult of a cost to fulfill than discarding a card or having that card drawn that turn with oh Jesus, card doesn't even get played anymore. I don't even know. The card that when you draw it costs 4, but when you draw it costs 3. So we're saying that those are easier to get than a unit dying. I mean, I definitely agree that discarding a card from your hand is easier. It's less situational. The drawing doesn't feel less situational. So I would say if you're going to do this, you should put that other one up to 4 damage as well. But I don't know, because that one you can also just pay 3 mana. This one you can't activate unless something dies. That one you can just pay the extra mana to do the damage anyways. I don't know. I think that would help PNZ if they did that. I don't know. This is going to fuck some shit up. I think this kind of puts their whole damage to expense ratio out of whack, so it's unfortunate. Riptide Rex. Let's go. Finally. Holy crap. I love 6/4. I think that is a beautiful stat line for Riptide Rex. With that said, I don't know if they also needed to reduce the 6 cannon barrages because of that reduction. So that kind of feels bad. But I think they're only doing that because of the whole max stack at 9 thing. Because they even mention it in here that it's proving to be a problem with a long-term issue with our board's 9 spell ability limit. That should not be a reason why you do this to like, fix the game, damn it. Like, that's just me personally. I feel like that is, I don't know if they should have put that in there, right? It should have just been, hey, this card is a little overpowered. It's 6 cannon barrages now. Not, hey, our game has this limit and this card messes with that. Because I feel like at some point they need to increase that limit. I never agreed with there being a max limit anyways. I mean, I guess you prevent some unlimited stuff, but there's already other ways to prevent the unlimited stuff, like what they did with Cloud Drinker, right? Or not Cloud Drinker. The hell's the other thing that makes a copy of... Man, I can't remember cards right now. The other infinite combo where you can make a copy of that thing in your hand and it's like Zephyr Sage. There we go. Hey, I remembered it. All right, so I don't know. I do think this is fine. I think this tones down Riptide a little bit and makes it more balanced. And Eclipse Dragon. Random, but sure, why not? It did kind of suck that he traded with 5 cost units that had 5 attack because you don't, like it actually says here, it doesn't really have an impact on the game immediately. Like you're spending 7 mana to just get a 7/7, which at that late in the game is usually a pretty big loss in tempo because you're not getting any immediate effect or impact. So yeah, I like this. Going to 7 health, it'll actually stick for the turn at least, probably. And yeah, so... Man, all right, so overall, I love the changes. I think this is going to completely shake up the metagame. However, I'm a little bit concerned about this Hexperimentation 101 here, all right? For all of you previous Hearthstone players... I see all even, all odd in there. Nope. Nah. Nope. I'm worried. Not cool. This is... If you guys played, you knew that there was deck building things where if you put a card in there and you had all even cards, it had some broken-ass effect. This means they're testing that. This means it might be a thing. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like there's better deck building constraints than making it even or odds. I don't know. That's just me. I just feel like there's more unique ideas out there than just, hey, play all even coster. But like, I like this all common idea. Kind of. It feels awkward saying that, but no followers I totally agree with. No champions I totally agree with. But I don't know. This all even. I hope this never becomes a thing. But hey, who knows? Gauntlets are now best of 3 and. Friend spectate, baby. Oh man. So this patch we're making our initial implementation of friend spectate, which will allow you to jump in and watch your friend's game with all the usual in-game functionality, including Oracle's Eye card details. And okay, well, that's actually kind of neat. I didn't even notice that till now. You can pet their guardian because that is the thing that matters, baby. So apparently they pushed this early, which is pretty cool. Hopefully we had something to do with that. And yeah, this is going to be sick. So click on your friends to spectate their matches in friend challenge versus player, normal versus AI, They made some expedition changes. And what are the bug fixes? Fix an issue where players occasionally couldn't collect rewards or XP when displaying correctly on region codes. Fix issue where improper text formatting in Thai and Japanese. There was one, I don't know if other people have been getting this. I know some of my friends have. When you get to the reward screen after you win a game or lose a game, it just freezes. You have to end the client through Task Manager or something. So hopefully they're aware of that and that gets handled as well. But friend freaking spectate, everybody. Oh man, and with that said, I am super excited. This weekend we got a Duels of Runeterra. If everything is set up properly for friend spectate, we got this. It's happening. It's gonna be a thing, and god damn am I excited to spectate. I've never been so excited in my life to just spectate a freaking video game. What is my life coming to? God, what are you doing with your life, SJW? Well, as always, everybody, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the bell. All that fun stuff. Follow me on Twitter. Do click stuff down below in the description. All that good shit. And as always, everybody, stay healthy. Stay positive. I hope shit just works for you. I hope you freaking enjoy this match in spectate mode. And, sorry, not match. Patch in spectate mode. And peace out, everybody.